She experienced a severe public embarrassment directly during the most prestigious baseball tournament for the elite, where each swing featured a $1 million sponsor logo. Claire entered the field wearing a worn tee, holding a used wooden bat, and with her hair simply tied back. How did the staff get approval to use equipment? A wealthy player scoffed. She's here to collect foul balls, not participate. But moments later, Claire's first home run hushed the entire stadium and made her critics anxious. The Spring Invitational Women's Baseball Tournament at Rosebridge Park was a symbol of affluence, its green field bordered by stands covered in corporate advertisements, its atmosphere filled with the aroma of new leather gloves and Chanel No. 5. This exclusive event, a venue for heiresses, female CEOs, and semi-pro athletes, emphasized prestige more than competition. Custom-engraved Louisville Sluggers shone, limited edition Nike cleats sparkled, and camera drones whirred for social media visibility. The dugouts, furnished with velvet benches, were designated for the privileged, their sapphire wristbands scanned by staff in tailored blazers. Beyond the field, a VIP pavilion stood, its glass walls reflecting the influence of those within. Claire Wren entered the field, her simple white t-shirt tucked into standard joggers, her canvas sneakers showing wear from years of use, her high ponytail moving with her. At 27, raised in a small Ohio town, she had developed her swing in local lots while working as a part-time coach, her talent natural but undeveloped until she encountered Julian Wren, the billionaire who had transformed professional baseball. She carried a used bat with a faded price tag, her only tool in a setting of immense wealth. The grandstand stairs felt sharp, a murmur suggesting an impending shift. Claire's presence disrupted the tournament's carefully constructed image. Her bat seemed out of place in this exclusive environment. A semi-pro player, Lauren Holt, rested against the dugout, her $3,000 Prada uniform catching the light. "This is a baseball tournament, not a public fitness class," she commented, her voice carrying enough to draw attention. A tech heiress, dressed in a $2,000 Under Armour kit, laughed quietly, elbowing her teammate. "Perhaps she is lost?" The kids' training camp was located out back. Laughter echoed from the grandstand, spectators attempting to hide smiles with manicured hands. Claire remained still, her hazel eyes focused, her bat resting on her shoulder. She had come to play for Julian, the man whose league she had quietly helped fund. The audience's displeasure arose, their hearts tightening at the seemingly callous actions of these gatekeepers, their contempt a sharp contrast to Claire's quiet composure. The taunting grew more intense, a spiteful sound led by the tournament's most prominent figures. Whitney Crane, the event's current social icon and daughter of a sports media executive, stepped forward, her personalized Nike jersey gleaming, her blonde hair neatly styled and her expression scornful. At 25, having grown up in Manhattan's luxurious apartments, she was known for belittling those new to the scene. She looked at Claire's athletic pants and laughed. "That bat looks like it came from a second-hand store," she remarked, her voice cutting and cruel. The players roared, their laughter echoing off the grandstands. Whitney tossed her bob, her jasmine-scented perfume wafting, a scent Claire knew Julian disliked. Claire's fingers tightened on her bat, her face calm, but the audience's fury surged, their hearts pounding at this personal attack, Whitney's arrogance a spark in the frost. The scorn grew intense, a coordinated attack on Claire's presence. A tournament staffer, Margaret Voss, approached, her blazer perfectly pressed, her face showing years of upholding rules. At 52, raised in upstate New York, she took pride in keeping things in order. "Miss, the field is for registered players only," she stated, indicating the exit, her voice steady but not unkind. The crowd cheered, their designer cleats sparkling as they bid her farewell from the diamond. A CEO, dressed in athletic wear costing $4,000, commented, probably filming some fake TikTok badass girl video before going home. Laughter erupted, players bumped each other, and a teammate whispered, "She doesn't even look like an athlete." Another remarked, "That t-shirt's a disgrace and she dares step here?" The comments felt harsh, each word contributing to Claire's silence. The audience's anger intensified, feeling sympathy for Claire and frustration at this group's cruel behavior. A palpable disdain emanated from the players as Claire took her position on the diamond, their taunts a deliberate and coordinated attempt to undermine her confidence. A group comprising experienced athletes and sporting $7,000 custom Nike uniforms assembled close to the dugout, their comments forming a sharp and critical sound. "She diminishes this tournament standing," one remarked, flinging a personalized glove towards Claire's well-worn sneakers. "Return to the batting cages, please," another gestured, displaying a sapphire wristband, and added, "Her bat is inadequate. Do you imagine she acquired it at a yard sale?" The grandstand's laughter boomed, staff members exchanging glances, their gold pins catching the light. A former collegiate star shouted, "She's an insult to every swing taken here." The insults felt like a guillotine, each word a blade against Claire's calm composure. Julian's pavilion stood beyond the field, but the Diamond's disapproval felt like an overwhelming burden. The audience's anger grew, their hearts pounding furiously at this planned cruelty, their anger blazing, ready to engulf the elite's arrogance. Whitney Crane delivered another sharp verbal attack, aiming to undermine Claire's confidence in front of the elite. She moved to the pitcher's mound, her Nike jersey catching the light, and fixed a gaze on Claire. "All right then, give it a try," she challenged, her voice strong enough to quiet the surrounding whispers. "If you strike out 3 times, you'll kneel and declare, 'I don't deserve to step onto Rosebridge Park,' in front of every camera present." The grandstands erupted in cheers, their disapproval feeling like an overwhelming wave. Claire responded with a smirk, her hazel eyes unwavering. "What if you hit the first home run of the game?" Whitney raised an eyebrow, her confidence unwavering. "Then what?" Claire's voice was soft but firm. "Then you remove your jersey and walk off the field. Immediately." Whitney laughed, but the crowd's murmurs intensified. "She's finished." The audience's anger erupted, their hearts aching for Claire, infuriated by this public humiliation revealed before the stadium. The players' disappointment became hurtful, their words a harsh chorus. A venture capitalist, dressed in a $5,000 Lululemon outfit, rested against the dugout, her voice sharp and critical. "She's insignificant, likely here seeking sponsorship," she remarked, pointing at Claire's used bat. "Look at those sneakers. Were they retrieved from a discard pile?" The teammates chuckled, their sapphire wristbands catching the light. A semi-pro player exclaimed, "She brings shame to those who allowed her to participate." The laughter felt overwhelming, their arrogance a stark display. Claire adjusted her ponytail, her hazel eyes steady, but the field's disapproval felt heavy. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived institutional betrayal, their fury threatening to undermine the tournament's integrity. Whitney Crane's disapproval became more pronounced, her words a deliberate attempt to undermine Claire before the tournament's elite. She expressed that Claire was not only unsuitable but also embarrassing, her Nike jersey catching the light as she pointed at Claire's joggers. Julian Wren would be deeply upset to witness this. Claire's group of supporters laughed, their personalized bats striking together, glancing at Claire's used bat. "She's a handout, not a player," Whitney remarked, her voice strong enough to quiet any nearby comments. The players responded with encouragement, their disapproval a heavy presence, their whispers circulating, "She's an imposter." Claire's hazel eyes held a quiet intensity, but her smile remained, a defense against the hurt. The pavilion shone beyond the grandstands, yet the field's rejection felt like a heavy burden. The audience's anger swelled, their spirits aching for Claire, upset at this socialite's deceit revealed before the stadium. The staff's involvement worsened the pain, their actions a further betrayal. Wearing a tailored blazer, field coordinator Emily Tate addressed a participant, her tone conveying a sense of superiority. "The practice field is that way," she stated, gesturing towards a side gate, a slight smile visible on her face, reflected by the players nearby. "We do not permit participants like yourself in the main tournament," she continued, prompting laughter from the onlookers. Emily, 28 years old and raised in Connecticut, valued her role in controlling access. The audience's affirmation felt like an overwhelming pressure, their attitude a very public display of judgment. Claire held her bat, her hazel eyes unwavering, but the atmosphere felt oppressive. The crowd's anger surged, their hearts racing in response to this blatant disrespect, their fury directed at Rosebridge's reputation. The field staff's disapproval became obvious, their actions resembling a deliberate humiliation intended to entertain the players. A senior official, Richard Tate, approached Claire close to the first baseline, his blazer immaculate, his voice laced with condescension. "Miss, this diamond is for credentialed athletes only," he stated, loud enough for the crowd to hear. He gestured at her t-shirt, indicating she might be in the wrong event, his smirk reflected by nearby staff. "We don't typically allow attire of this nature at the Spring Invitational," he added, prompting laughter from the players and spectators. The crowd's reaction felt overwhelming, and their demeanor felt dismissive. Claire held her bat, her hazel eyes steady, but the field's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their resentment directed at Rosebridge's reputation. The players' harshness was evident, their words a bitter torrent. A media influencer, wearing a $6,000 Nike outfit, moved closer, her voice sharp and critical. "She's a fraud, likely trying to sneak onto the cameras," she stated, her associates agreeing with nods, their gold earrings catching the light. "The bat is a prop, merely a tactic for disguise," another addition. Shouts erupted. "She's a con artist. The tournament's been duped." The laughter was deafening, each rumor a blow aimed at Claire's heart. Spectators whispered falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. Rumors persisted. "She's after the prize money." Claire touched her ponytail, maintaining a steady gaze, but the crowd's slander felt like a heavy burden. The audience's outrage surged, their feelings aligned with Claire, their anger a powerful force against this damaging falsehood, eager for the truth to expose the elite's deceptions. The spectators' disdain intensified as they spread harmful rumors, their voices a sharp and bitter sound resonating through the grandstands. A sports agent, dressed in a $10,000 Tom Ford suit, moved closer, his voice forceful and pointed. "She's a fake, likely paid to get onto this field," he stated, his associates concurring, their cufflinks gleaming. "Her marriage is a fabrication, simply a tactic to enter the tournament," someone added, yelling, "She's a fraud. Julian has been deceived." The laughter intensified, each rumor felt like a painful blow to Claire's heart. Employees murmured falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. "She's pursuing the sponsorships." Claire touched her bat, her expression unwavering, but the public's defamation felt like an immense burden. The audience's anger exploded, their hearts aligned with Claire, their fury a tidal wave against this malicious slander, desperately wanting the truth to dismantle the elite's lies. Claire remained silent, without a tear in her eyes, her hands holding her second-hand bat, a relic from her Ohio days, its grip worn from many swings. She stepped to the plate, her canvas sneakers soft on the dirt, her plain t-shirt a stark contrast to the field's opulence. A hush fell over the audience, thousands of eyes anticipating a mistake. Whitney Crane stepped onto the mound, her Nike jersey bright, her pitching honed by Team USA coaches. The first pitch, a sharp crack, zipped past the catcher's head, a line drive narrowly missing the infield. The second pitch, with a resounding wham, struck the edge of the stands, a foul ball that vibrated the bleachers. The third pitch, a powerful boom, cleared the main stadium fence, a white blur against the sky. The grandstand stood still, cameras focused, drones hovering. Whitney's mouth fell open, her hairstyle offering no protection. The audience's emotions changed, their frustration turning to excitement, Claire's understated resolve a glimmer in the cold air. The quiet of the crowd shattered, intakes of breath spreading through the scented atmosphere. A seasoned umpire, Arthur Cole, moved to the front, his worn hat pulled down, his eyes widened. At 65, a longtime figure in the sport, he indicated the fence. "That is the initial home run of the tournament," he announced, his voice shaking. A clean hit over the wall, something no one had accomplished in years. Players stood, gathering around the dugout, their sapphire wristbands catching the light. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Who is she? Where did she learn to hit like that? Why is she dressed like that?" Whitney's Nike jersey seemed to lose some of its brightness, her confidence seeming less sure. The audience's sense of pride grew, their hearts pounding as Claire's swing altered the field's power dynamic. A change fell over the atmosphere as the VIP pavilion moved, the crowd separating like a wave. Julian Wren entered the field, his gray suit impeccably tailored yet subtly styled, his arrival a striking moment. At 38 years old, having grown up in Chicago, he was the creator of Rosebridge Park and held significant shares in the National Baseball League, fundamentally altering the sport. He moved past a speechless Whitney, placed his arm around Claire's waist, kissed her forehead, and offered a smile. "I told you," he stated, his voice unwavering. "One swing is all it takes." The grandstands fell silent, camera flashes illuminated the scene, and drones remained suspended above. Julian addressed Whitney, his gray eyes fixed on hers. "You have disrespected the primary sponsor of this tournament and my wife," he stated. "Effective immediately, you will not be included in any event organized by my group, and those who participated in today's discriminatory actions will be subject to the same consequence." A wave of emotion rippled through the audience, their anger shifting to admiration, as Julian's words exposed the falsehoods that had concealed Claire. The players halted, Whitney Crane's personalized bat falling from her grasp, striking the ground with a sound on the dirt. Julian spoke, his voice breaking the quiet. He emphasized that the tournament was founded on principles of fairness, and pointed out that Claire had provided funding for half of its endowment, yet someone had the audacity to criticize her. The players' cleats appeared to lose their vibrancy, and their faces were drawn with surprise. Emily Tate remained still, her position as a gatekeeper proving to be a demonstration of her failure. Julian indicated Claire with a firm hand. "She doesn't require your wristbands. She embodies the spirit of this game." The audience erupted in cheers, their anger shifting to admiration as Claire's revelation started to redefine the tournament's history. Arthur Cole acknowledged her with a respectful nod, his cap pulled low, as everyone waited for her reply. Claire moved forward, her worn t-shirt a subtle symbol of her strength, and clasped Julian's hand. "I didn't come here to demonstrate anything," she stated, her voice gentle yet firm. "I came to compete." She hesitated, her hazel eyes scanning the stands. "However, since you requested a swing, I delivered one." The stadium erupted, spectators standing, their applause a symphony of awe. Whitney Crane bowed her head, her Nike jersey no shield, and muttered, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wren." Representatives from sports brands and media outlets approached, their endorsement offers extended with trembling hands. Claire smiled, squeezed Julian's hand, and said, "I just came to hit the ball." The audience roared, their hearts pounding as her grace crushed the elite's arrogance. The consequences were swift, a judgment rendered quietly. Whitney Crane was led off the field, her jersey removed amidst a barrage of camera flashes, her media empire now a stark warning. Emily Tate received a reassignment to administrative duties, effectively ending her career of controlling access. Lauren Holt, the semi-pro who had ridiculed Claire's bat, was prohibited from participating in future tournaments, and her sponsorships were terminated. The venture capitalist who had derided Claire's sneakers was disallowed from league events, her power eliminated. Those who had laughed faced disciplinary action, with reduced responsibilities. Individuals who had disseminated rumors concealed their wristbands, losing any semblance of authority. Claire stood next to Julian, her canvas sneakers firm, her used bat a symbol of her integrity. The audience's hearts pounded, their anger shifting to triumph, Claire's victory shining brightly and humbling the field's top players in Rosebridge's revered park. Julian Wren's presence dominated the room, his voice like a sharp command that stilled the atmosphere, decorated with banners. "You dared to challenge Claire Wren," he stated, his gray eyes radiating controlled anger. "Your wristbands, your titles, hold no weight against her truth." He then displayed a tablet showing a series of broken connections, Whitney Crane's media contracts, Emily Tate's event privileges, and players' sponsorship deals, all revoked by Rosebridge's board. Erased from baseball's future, he declared, his gaze fixed on Whitney. "You've lost more than games, you've lost your platforms." The crowd's gasps resonated as a symphony of shock, their empires crumbling under his command. Claire stood beside him, her faded t-shirt glowing, her triumph confirmed by Julian's unrelenting power. The audience roared, their hearts soaring as his global retribution suppressed the elite's arrogance. The downfall of the elite proved to be a striking event, their arrogance broken under Julian's command. Whitney Crane faltered from the mound, her Nike jersey appearing ironic, her reputation serving as a warning to the players. Emily Tate's control over access diminished, her disdain becoming a public embarrassment, with her assistants guiding her towards the service exit. Lauren Holt's endorsements disappeared, her mockery revealed as falsehoods. The sports agent who had spread rumors concealed his cufflinks, his contracts invalidated. The staff who had sneered were terminated, their careers concluded. The media influencer who had laughed faced rejection, her platform diminished. Claire stood tall, her sneakers a subtle symbol of triumph, her hazel eyes resolute. The grandstand's cameras flashed, documenting the elite's downfall, their empires collapsing due to Claire's swing. A wave of emotion swept through the audience, their frustration shifting to a sense of accomplishment, Claire's triumph and Julian's displeasure resonating across Rosebridge's esteemed park, impacting the world's wealthiest individuals. The tournament's established order collapsed under Julian's direction, revealing a deep-seated corruption within its foundation. He addressed the event director, his tone sharp and direct. "Your selection process is a sham," he declared, his gray eyes unwavering. "All regulations that caused my wife distress are null and void, effective immediately." He tapped his phone, and a series of notifications flooded the staff's devices. Agreements terminated, privileges withdrawn, entire teams dissolved. The venture capitalist's approvals were invalidated, her power a remnant of a bygone era. The semi-pro team was disqualified, her professional path halted. The coordinator who had laughed was escorted out, her blazer dark. Claire stood beside Julian, her used bat a silent reminder of her honesty, her victory a bright spot in the tournament's fading glow. The audience's emotions lifted, their frustration changing into celebration. Julian's fury a powerful surge that washed away Rosebridge's pride. The players' downfall became absolute as they addressed the cameras. Their earlier confidence vanished under Julian's direction. They approached the field's perimeter, their sapphire wristbands losing their luster, their voices unsteady. Lauren Holt turned towards the grandstands, her Prada uniform seeming inappropriate. "I was mistaken to criticize Mrs. Wren," she stated, her apology a public admission of fault, resulting in the termination of her endorsements. The media influencer followed, her Nike attire appearing worn, her online presence eliminated. "I regret propagating falsehoods," she whispered, her power diminished. The venture capitalist expressed her regret, her previous statements now meaningless. The employees who had previously mocked them were now last, their professional attire removed, their careers concluded. Claire stood next to Julian, her simple shirt a subtle emblem, her bat representing her authenticity. The crowd erupted, their spirits lifted as the apologies of the powerful resonated, their influence diminishing due to Claire's powerful hits and Julian's unwavering strength. Claire's history remained unknown, not to the players, not to Whitney, and not to the staff. At 18, she would practice swings in vacant lots while coaching children, her diner tips paying for her glove. At 22, she encountered Julian at a charity game, her natural talent captivating him amidst the spectacle. Their marriage, a personal commitment in an Ohio meadow, was founded on affection and mutual aspirations. Whitney's perfume, the staff's blazers, the players' kits, none equaled the significance of the bat Claire possessed. Now she stood on the field, her ponytail a testament to her truth, her silence a furnace that burned through their lies. The tournament paused, but the grandstand's eyes remained on Claire. A league official approached, his voice low with respect. "Mrs. Wren, your swing is legendary," he said. His earlier scorn was a regret. The players retreated, their influence null, their agents scrambling to salvage ties with Rosebridge. The sponsors hovered, their empires trembling in Claire's shadow. She proceeded toward the pavilion, her hazel eyes following Julian's confident smile. The banners lessened in brightness, the spring light disappearing, leaving behind a procession of the world's wealthiest individuals seeking her approval. There was a quiet acknowledgement of defeat for those who had previously scorned her. Claire was called onto the stage, her sneakers making little sound on the platform where she accepted the Sports Fairness Icon Award, its crystal sparkling under the lights. She held Julian's hand, her t-shirt a subtle expression of her integrity. The crowd erupted, their applause a powerful surge as she stepped down, her bat slung over her shoulder. The field grew quiet, the cameras motionless, the elite's empire's dust settling. Julian moved closer to her, his gray eyes gentle. "Ready to go home?" she affirmed, her hazel eyes following his smile. They exited the field, the spring light diminishing, leaving Rosebridge Park forever altered by a single swing. She endured a severe public shaming, occurring directly during the most prominent baseball competition for top players, where each swing featured a $1 million sponsor logo. However, when her bat connected with the ball and her husband's truth emerged onto the field, everyone understood one thing. The authentic champion doesn't require specialized equipment. She simply needs to swing, and the stadium will acknowledge her. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Claire? The moment she arrived on the red carpet, she was dismissed. Her outfit consisted of a simple linen dress, strappy flat sandals, and loose, unstyled hair. She carried a stack of black and white papers in her hand, without a binder or any visible branding. A businesswoman subtly adjusted her Cartier necklace, offered a brief look, and remarked, "Since when do charity galas welcome the locals?" A fashion model turned to her companions and stifled a laugh. She appears to have stepped out of a public library, not a billionaire ball. Rose Avery stood quietly at the VIP check-in. No one inquired about her name. No one examined the invitation she held. To them, she possessed no worth, merely a fleeting amusement in a glittering room, a woman too quiet, too plain, to be taken seriously. However, they were mistaken. The woman they had just humiliated was the actual owner of the entire gala, and the one who held absolute power over the very ecosystem they depended on. The Avery Global Gala stood as the event of the year, taking place in Washington, D.C. At the luxurious Meridian House, a mansion known for its chandeliers and rich history. More than a fundraiser, it represented a strategic competition where prominent figures, senators, CEOs, celebrities, and media moguls, contended for influence. The guest list was carefully selected, with only 200 invitations extended, each serving as a coveted entry into the upper echelons of American wealth and politics. A palpable excitement filled the atmosphere as attendees awaited news of the largest grants, the most esteemed collaborations, or a favorable review from the Avery Foundation, the powerful entity that dictated funding for areas ranging from education to defense contracts. Rose Avery moved through the gathering discreetly, her canvas backpack resting on her shoulder, her proposal for a complimentary community library held securely beneath it. Months were spent developing the plan, filled with a deep commitment to literacy and empowerment for children in underserved neighborhoods. The soft ivory, second-hand linen dress with its square neck moved gently as she walked. Her sandals made a quiet clicking sound on the marble floor. She chose not to wear makeup, it wasn't necessary. Her face was remarkable in its simplicity, with pronounced cheekbones and eyes that reflected a quiet determination. However, to the gala's guests, she was unnoticed or even a target. The lobby presented a scene of elaborate couture gowns and perfectly tailored tuxedos, with diamonds catching the light. A tech billionaire, sporting a velvet blazer, expressed disdain as Rose walked by, asking, "What's she doing here? Distributing flyers for a bake sale?" A congresswoman's aide, enjoying a glass of champagne, whispered to her superior, "Have they begun inviting anyone who walks in off the sidewalk?" She appears as though she instructs yoga at a local community center. A wave of laughter echoed among their group, precise and critical. Rose remained unfazed. She continued walking, her gaze fixed ahead and her pace even, as though the voices around her were merely ambient sound. Approaching the VIP check-in, an employee wearing a tailored black suit gave her a cursory look. "Name?" he inquired, his voice precise, seemingly certain she wasn't authorized. Rose presented her invitation, a simple card featuring a single, raised A. However, before she could respond, a woman adorned in a sequined gown pushed past her. "Pardon me, I am on the guest registry," the woman stated, displaying a wrist covered in diamonds. A staffer allowed her entry, disregarding Rose completely. "Ma'am," he said, addressing her, This area is reserved for priority guests. Please try the general seating in the back. Rose acknowledged this, remaining calm, and moved aside. She offered no objections, spoke no protests. She simply stood there, holding her papers, her face calm but resolute. It was then that a young man wearing a well-cut navy suit, Evan Caldwell, the senator's son who has 1 million followers on social media, noticed her. He retrieved his phone, a smirk playing on his lips, and began recording. "Hey, watch this," he said to his live stream, adjusting the camera to focus on Rose. This woman believes she's attending the Avery Gala wearing a second-hand dress and carrying a pile of printer paper. Seriously, are you planning to present a free library proposal to billionaires? Best of luck, dear. His viewers immediately filled the chat with laughing emojis and mocking remarks. "She's certainly brave," Evan said with a laugh, zooming in on her sandals. "But this is an entirely different level of unrealistic." The audience reacted strongly, their laughter escalating in volume and intensity. A reality TV star, wearing a red dress with a low neckline, joined in the mocking, tossing her hair. "Honey, this isn't a PDA meeting. Go home and change," she said. A hedge fund manager, his cufflinks catching the light, added, "She's probably here to request funding. She should have at least chosen a more appropriate outfit." Rose remained motionless, her eyes following the detailed ceiling trim as if committing it to memory. She offered no reply, avoiding their stares. Her silence wasn't a sign of vulnerability, it was a barrier, unwavering and composed. While Rose waited near the VIP check-in, a cluster of young heiresses in dazzling gowns gathered around her, observing her like predators. One, holding a Chanel purse, glanced at Rose's cloth backpack and scoffed. "Is that her bag? I wouldn't use it to carry my dog's toys." Another approached, her voice laced with malice. "Sweetie, this is the Avery Gala, not a soup kitchen. Why don't you spare us all the discomfort and leave?" Laughter rippled through the room, the sounds bouncing off the marble walls and attracting attention. A photographer positioned nearby quickly captured an image, remarking to his colleague, "This'll go viral. Homeless hippie crashes elite gala." Rose's fingers curled more tightly around her invitation, though she remained silent. Her expression stayed composed, almost otherworldly, as if the comments were water flowing over glass. Despite this, each remark stung, and the visible enjoyment others took in her discomfort felt overwhelming. Within the ballroom, a palpable excitement filled the air. Tables were adorned with crystal stemware, and each centerpiece was a lavish display of orchids and gold leaf. The stage was prominently positioned at the front, enveloped by velvet curtains, where the evening's significant announcement was to be made, the reveal of the gala's primary sponsor, responsible for covering the expenses of the entire event. Many people believed it would be Nathaniel Avery, the solitary billionaire whose corporation Avery Global functioned as an unofficial power, influencing national spending and cultural trends. His lack of public appearances in recent years had only intensified speculation, but tonight, the expectation was that he would appear. Rose secured a seat at the perimeter of the room, close to a utility entrance where servers moved between areas. She placed her papers on the table, carefully smoothing them, and retrieved a small notebook from her backpack to write down some thoughts. The woman beside her, a media heiress wearing a sapphire-encrusted gown, looked over and expressed disbelief. "Are you really writing in a spiral notebook? At the Avery Gala?" Her friend, a pop star with a platinum blonde bob, moved closer. "Perhaps she's recording her feelings about feeling so different." They laughed, not attempting to speak quietly. Rose continued writing, her pen moving smoothly, her face showing intense concentration. The gala began with a string quartet, their music flowing amidst the conversations. The host, a silver-haired TV anchor with a voice like velvet, stepped onto the stage to greet the audience. "Tonight, we celebrate not just philanthropy, but power," he announced, his smile radiant. "The Avery Foundation has influenced our nation's future, education, infrastructure, and policy, and we're here to see who will carry that legacy on." A palpable anticipation filled the room, with many heads turning, trying to locate Nathaniel Avery. Was he observing from a private box at the back? The atmosphere was charged. Throughout the evening, The taunting of Rose continued relentlessly. A cluster of young influencers, positioned near the bar, repeatedly photographed her from a distance, adding captions like "Haha Gala Crasher" and "Who let her in?" Evan Caldwell, continuing his live stream, provided commentary on her every action. She was simply reviewing her documents as if she intended to revolutionize everything. A reminder, you won't receive any funding appearing like that. His online discussion was filled with approving reactions to his humor, encouraging him to continue. A senator's wife, listening nearby, turned to her husband. "It's quite embarrassing, actually. They should increase security measures. People like her diminish the significance of the event." Rose, in the meantime, was listening to the speeches. A technology leader announced a commitment of $5 million for AI research. A congressman pledged $3 million for veterans programs. Each announcement received applause, but Rose's eyes remained focused on her notebook, where she documented observations about literacy gaps in rural schools. When a waiter offered her a glass of champagne, she smiled and requested water instead. "Plant-based diet, huh?" the waiter remarked, half joking. "You're likely the only one here who doesn't eat caviar." Rose chuckled quietly, a first indication of relaxation. "Caviar's overrated," she commented, and returned to her notes. Amidst a pause in the speeches, a well-known lobbyist moved toward Rose's table, his expression difficult to miss. He took her library proposal, examining it as if it were a simple sketch. "Free libraries? For those children," he stated, his voice audible to those at adjacent tables. "Darling, you're misusing everyone's time. Focus on teaching yoga or your current profession." He returned the papers, one page drifting to the floor. As Rose bent to retrieve it, a passing socialite inadvertently crushed it, her stiletto leaving a mark. She chuckled without turning around. The room filled with suppressed laughter, eyes turning to observe Rose's discomfort. She picked up the page, carefully smoothing it, and returned to her seat, her expression composed. However, the atmosphere surrounding her felt oppressive, thick with the audience's amusement at her misfortune. The room's unkindness escalated when Evan and his friends came to her table. The camera continued to record, his smile expansive. "Hey, library lady," he called out, his voice intended to attract attention. "What's your proposal? Free books for kids? That's charming, but this is a different level. You aren't securing a meeting with Nathaniel Avery appearing as if you just emerged from a commune." His companions chuckled, and several adjacent tables echoed the amusement, their laughter rising like a surge. Rose lifted her gaze, her eyes locking with Evan's for the first time. They were bright, unwavering, almost intense. She remained silent, maintaining eye contact until he visibly hesitated, a nervous chuckle escaping him as he addressed his camera. "Tough crowd, huh?" he mumbled, stepping back. The gala proceeded towards its peak. The host reappeared on stage, his demeanor serious, yet vibrant. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the moment you've all anticipated. The Avery Foundation has consistently been a source of influence, and tonight we announce not only the sponsor of this gala, but the new steward of Avery Global itself, the individual who now oversees its extensive resources, its funding channels, and its vision for America's future." The room fell silent, forks clinking against plates forgotten. Everyone leaned forward, anticipating Nathaniel Avery's imposing figure to appear. Instead, the host extended his arm toward the back of the room. "Please welcome the new owner of Avery Global, the woman now responsible for all political, educational, and media funding pipelines, Ms. Rose Avery." A noticeable reaction went through the crowd, with many people turning to look for a prominent figure in a private area. However, Rose rose to her feet, her linen dress reflecting the light, her sandals making almost no sound on the floor. She approached the stage, still holding her papers, and her hair remained unbound. The room was still, with all eyes focused on her, and many people were visibly surprised. Evan's phone shifted a little, his live stream showing his shocked expression. The businesswoman wearing the Cartier necklace sputtered, coughing on her wine. The model who had previously made fun of her appearance, referencing a library look, became motionless, her hand shaking as she held her clutch. Rose entered the spotlight, appearing exactly as she always did. There was no elaborate gown, No sparkling jewels, just Rose. She placed her documents on the podium and surveyed the audience, her eyes pausing on the first row, on Evan, the influencers, and the senator's wife. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but carried a weight that filled the room. Tonight is not simply about raising money, it is about determining who truly deserves funding. She paused, allowing the words to resonate, because I am capable of writing a $10 million check, or I can erase your name from this entire ecosystem permanently. As Rose approached the podium, the spotlight illuminated the faint creases in her linen dress, a stark contrast to the room's opulence. She placed her papers on the table, and for a brief instant the audience paused, anticipating a misstep. However, she began to speak, her voice firm, cutting through the quiet. I am Nathaniel Avery's daughter. For 7 years I have lived among you, unnoticed, to comprehend the world my father's empire influences. Every dollar you have pursued, every agreement you have finalized, every aspiration you have financed, it has been under my observation. The room reacted, faces losing color as the reality became apparent. Evan's phone vibrated in his hand, his live stream now displaying his own collapse. The businesswoman's Cartier necklace sparkled as she held it, her empire suddenly vulnerable. Rose stood firm, her unassuming nature now a symbol of authority, her silent strength unmistakable. The stillness was absolute. Evan's live stream chat filled with question marks and surprised emojis, his viewers struggling to understand what they just witnessed. The senator's wife squeezed her husband's arm, her face drained of color. The media heiress dropped her fork, the clatter reverberating in the quiet. The crowd's astonishment intensified as Rose's words lingered. She raised her head, her eyes meeting the senator's wife who had previously labeled her a detriment to the event. You believed I was insignificant, she stated, her voice calm yet sharp, but I'm the one who has been endorsing your grants, validating your initiatives, observing each action you've taken. My father established Avery Global, but I am the one who has been managing it, discreetly until this moment. The room felt smaller, her presence dominating every space. The pop star's platinum bob shook as she understood her latest tour was funded by Rose's endorsement. The tech mogul's wife, who had previously belittled her as someone of lesser status, settled back into her chair, her expression showing fear. Rose's unassuming nature was no longer a source of amusement, it demonstrated her power and influence. Rose remained calm, avoiding any display of triumph, and proceeded with, 7 years ago, my father, Nathaniel Avery, presented me with a choice. To truly understand what the world requires, I've lived among you unnoticed and ordinary. I've taught children to read in crumbling schools. I've eaten meals that cost less than your coffee. I've listened to people you'd never notice, and I've built something substantial. She presented her papers, the library proposal. This is the Quiet Power Initiative, a network of free libraries across America, starting with the kids who need them most. I'm funding it myself, $50 million to start, no grants needed. A hush lingered in the air, some murmuring, others frozen in disbelief. Rose's gaze repeatedly scanned the room, unwavering and determined. However, let me state this plainly. This environment, your initiatives, your endeavors, your reputations are reliant on Avery Global. And I determine who remains within it. Those who create, who contribute, who demonstrate foresight, they will prosper. Those who undermine, who deride, who perceive authority as a trivial pursuit. She stopped, her look directed at Evan, then the influencers, then the businesswoman. Your involvement is terminated. The impact of her words felt devastating. Evan's phone continued recording, though his hand trembled. His scholarship from the Avery Foundation, his White House internship, his entire future seemed to vanish before him. The influencers who had photographed her quickly tried to remove their posts, their faces pale. The senator's wife spoke urgently to her husband, who was already calling his chief of staff, attempting to save their funding. Rose did not pause to observe them. Turning back to the audience, her voice lowered, yet remained authoritative. The Quiet Power Initiative goes beyond books. It's about providing individuals with opportunities to advance, to gain recognition, and to be listened to. I have witnessed the impact of investing in those who are often disregarded. And I am here to ensure that continues, beginning tonight. She descended from the stage, her sandals making a gentle sound, and returned to her place. The chamber filled with a combination of surprised applause and anxious whispers. The host, regaining composure, attempted to introduce the following speaker, but the audience was distracted. Everyone's attention was focused on Rose, who remained seated, calmly reviewing her notebook as if the events hadn't occurred. By morning, the consequences arrived quickly and severely. Evan Caldwell's Avery Foundation scholarship was withdrawn, and his internship was terminated via a brief email from the White House. His live stream, intended as a ridicule of Rose, unexpectedly gained widespread attention for negative reasons, and his name is now linked to arrogance and downfall. Those influencers who had shared her photos were barred from Avery-funded events, and their brand partnerships ended abruptly. The businesswoman, adorned with a Cartier necklace, discovered her company's $20 million education grant had been withdrawn and rerouted to Rose's library program. The senator's wife and her husband encountered a harsh truth. Their favored initiatives, ranging from think tanks to campaign funds, were discontinued, diminishing their impact within a few hours. By morning, the lives of the elite were falling apart. The reality television personality who had instructed Rose to depart received an email. Her Avery-sponsored docuseries, Her Pathway to Credibility, was canceled, and her name was removed from the foundation's list. She looked at her phone, her red dress from the gala discarded on the floor, her career seemingly ruined. The hedge fund manager, who had mocked her attire, discovered his firm's $15 million defense contract had been given to a rival company, a brief message from Avery Global mentioning ethical incompatibility. The cufflinks felt like restraints now, his arrogance a tightening grip. Social media was filled with screenshots of their mockery, now accompanied by captions referencing their downfall, a clear case of karma. Viewers watching Evan's archived live stream celebrated as his confident expression transformed into a representation of his self-destruction, his future seemingly undone by the woman he'd previously dismissed as delusional. Rose, in the meantime, had already begun her work. She convened with community leaders in a small D.C. office, her cloth backpack resting on the floor, her proposal now serving as a detailed plan. The Quiet Power Initiative opened its first library in a neglected neighborhood, with plans for 50 more by year's end. She didn't gloat, didn't seek the spotlight, she just worked, her quiet power reshaping the world one step at a time. The influencers who'd tagged Rose with Galacrasher were now absent from the elite circle. Their invitations to Avery-backed events, fashion weeks, charity balls, and premieres vanished, and their follower counts plummeted as brands distanced themselves. A tearful apology video was released, but the damage was already done. Rose's team had initiated the process for excluding her from future funding. The photographer who captured Rose's viral humiliation had his press credentials revoked and was dropped by his agency. His moment of notoriety became his downfall. Across the internet, the public celebrated what they perceived as justice. Memes featuring Rose's serene face with the caption, "Never judge the quiet ones," proliferated on all platforms. Those who had previously mocked her sandals now confronted a changed situation. Rose Avery didn't just win, she redefined the landscape, leaving the established order behind. The gala's elite had dismissed her sandals, her proposals, her aspirations. They perceived her as insignificant. But Rose Avery was far from insignificant. She embodied the future, and she had just reshaped theirs. This is the impact of the overlooked. If this narrative resonated with you, share, comment, and subscribe for more. She experienced humiliation and was even detained directly within the VIP terminal of Rosebridge Airport. Dressed in an old hoodie and worn-out sneakers, she appeared strikingly ordinary amidst a waiting lounge filled with Italian suits and platinum-tier memberships. This type of passenger doesn't typically travel on a private jet, a security officer stated coldly. She was held, under scrutinizing glances, until the private jet of her billionaire husband arrived. Rosebridge Jet Terminal presented an image of immense wealth, with its polished marble floors reflecting the light of expensive chandeliers, and its tarmac accommodating Gulfstreams and Louis Vuitton suitcases. This exclusive airport, where sapphire membership cards held greater significance than passports, resonated with the presence of tailored Armani suits, Louboutin heels, and the aroma of Tom Ford oud. The VIP lounge, designed as a lavish space of glass and velvet, catered exclusively to a select clientele, with staff in silk vests verifying access via platinum keycards. Past the lounge area, a private runway extended, its entrances secured for the wealthiest individuals. Claire Sutton entered the terminal, wearing a casual gray hoodie, faded sweatpants, and worn sneakers that made a soft sound on the marble flooring. At 30 years old, having grown up in a small, unassuming town, she had independently studied aerospace engineering while working as a mechanic, her life straightforward until she encountered Noah Sutton, the individual responsible for establishing Sutton Aerospace as a worldwide leader. A book and a water bottle were inside the small backpack she carried, her only belongings following a connecting domestic flight. The lounge's stairs seemed to divide her, as if sensing an approaching storm. Claire felt like an imperfection in the terminal's gleaming appearance, her backpack a disruption to the exclusive environment. A security officer, Victor Hayes, moved toward her, his navy uniform immaculate, his badge shining. "This lounge is exclusively for private jet passengers," he stated, his voice drawing attention. A lounge attendant, wearing a $2,000 Gucci blazer, chuckled, bending towards their colleague. They likely gained entry searching for employment. Amusement spread through the lounge, passengers concealing smiles with perfectly shaped hands. Claire remained still, her hazel eyes fixed, her backpack over one shoulder. She had come to meet Noah, the man whose empire she'd secretly assisted in creating. A wave of frustration rippled through the onlookers, their emotions tightening at the dismissive behavior of these officials, their contempt a sharp contrast to Claire's gentle demeanor. The jeering grew louder, a harsh sound led by the terminal's influential members. Vanessa Klein, the lounge manager, stepped forward, her platinum blonde hair flowing over a form-fitting Versace dress, her red lipstick a vivid accent to her cool expression. At 29 years old, having grown up in Miami's affluent circles, she was known for maintaining strict standards of admittance. Claire's hoodie earned a scoff. "We're unable to verify your identity or your reason for being in the high-security zone," the officer stated, her voice crisp and firm. The passengers responded with laughter that reverberated against the glass walls. Vanessa, with a flick of her hair, released a cloud of Chanel perfume, a fragrance Claire knew Noah found unpleasant. Claire's fingers gripped her backpack, her expression composed, while the audience's anger escalated, their hearts racing at this direct challenge, Vanessa's confidence appearing sharp and cold. The criticism intensified, becoming a deliberate and unified attack on Claire's presence. Victor Hayes approached, his badge reflecting light, and indicated a side door. "Your baggage has not cleared VIP screening," he stated, his voice steady but not unkind. "Please proceed to the holding area for those suspected of making false statements." The crowd applauded, their Rolexes catching the light as they gestured for her to leave. A passenger wearing a $6,000 Brioni suit exclaimed, "You don't seem like someone who owns a private jet ticket." Amusement rippled through the group, with passengers bumping shoulders. A receptionist whispered, "She doesn't appear to be a tourist." Another commented, "That hoodie looks like it could be stolen, and she has the nerve to enter here?" The remarks felt like a heavy blow, each word a painful strike against Claire's quietness. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts aching for Claire, deeply upset by this group's persistent harshness. The travelers' disdain became sharp as Claire stood in the VIP lounge, their taunts a deliberate attack intended to undermine her resolve. Several technology leaders in $8,000 Seville row suits assembled close to the velvet sofas, their words a spiteful blend. "She's a mark on Rosebridge's reputation," one remarked, gesturing with a platinum fountain pen in Claire's direction, highlighting her worn sneakers. Returning to the budget terminal, one individual brandished a black Amex card, exclaiming, "Her backpack appears to be from a flea market." The audience's laughter was loud, employees glancing at each other, their Rolexes reflecting the light. A private equity mogul declared, "She's an insult to every jet parked here." The jeers felt like a severe judgment, each word a sharp blow against Claire's composed demeanor. Noah's jet was visible on the tarmac beyond the glass, but the lounge's disapproval felt intensely heavy. The audience's anger escalated, their hearts racing, indignant at this planned injustice. their fury intense and ready to challenge the elite's pride. The staff's involvement aggravated the situation, their actions a new disappointment. A receptionist, Clara Holt, wearing a tailored blazer, approached, her voice laced with disdain. "Miss, the general terminal is that way," she stated, gesturing towards a concealed door, her smirk reflected by surrounding passengers. "We don't allow such guests in the VIP lounge," she added, which drew laughter from the group. Clara, 26 years old and raised in New Jersey, took pride in her role as a gatekeeper. The group's approval felt like a powerful current, their arrogance a very public rejection. Claire held her backpack, her hazel eyes unwavering, but the lounge's disapproval felt intensely heavy. The audience's anger surged, their hearts racing at this form of institutional rejection, their fury burning against Rosebridge's sanctity. Vanessa Klein's criticism became pointed, a deliberate attempt to embarrass Claire in front of the lounge's most distinguished members. "You're not just out of place, you're a source of embarrassment," she stated, her Versace dress catching the light as she indicated Claire's sweatpants. Sutton Aerospace would not permit such behavior, she insisted, within their facilities. Her companions laughed, the sound punctuated by the clicking of their Mont Blanc pens, their gazes shifting to Claire's backpack. Vanessa remarked, "She's a charity case, not a jet passenger," her voice carrying enough volume to hush the surrounding quiet sounds. The passengers responded with approval, their disapproval feeling overwhelming, their hushed tones filled with discontent. "She's a fake," they muttered. Claire's hazel eyes glowed with contained anger, but her smile remained steady, a defense against the feeling of being let down. The pavement shimmered outside the windows, but the lounge's disapproval felt like a heavy burden. The audience's anger surged, their feelings of sorrow for Claire evident, fueled by the manager's deception revealed. The passengers' resentment reached a high point, their voices a harsh and bitter wave. A technology executive in a $5,000 Canali suit leaned forward, his voice sharp and dismissive. "She's insignificant, likely here seeking a passage," he remarked, pointing at Claire's sweatpants. "Observe that backpack. Did she retrieve it from a refuse container?" His associates chuckled, displaying their platinum cards. A socialite declared, "She's an embarrassment to whoever let her in." Laughter echoed, each insult a dagger aimed at Claire's heart. A woman standing close by with her daughter murmured, "She's likely someone's housekeeper." Her daughter chuckled, adding, "Or a stowaway." The audience's anger surged, their hearts with Claire, their fury a tidal wave against this malicious slander, desperate for the truth to shatter the elite's lies. The lounge staff's disapproval became obvious, their behavior a public embarrassment intended to entertain the other passengers. A senior concierge, Richard Tate, addressed Claire close to the glass reception desk, his silk vest immaculate, his tone condescending. "Miss, this lounge is exclusively for verified jet passengers," he stated, ensuring the surrounding people could hear. He indicated her hoodie with a gesture, his smirk echoed by the nearby employees. "Rosebridge rarely permits such straightforwardness," he stated, which elicited laughter from those present. The group's acceptance felt overwhelming, their confidence a stark display. Claire held her backpack, her hazel eyes steady, but the lounge's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their fury burning against the terminal's integrity. Claire remained silent, her eyes dry, her arms holding her backpack, a plain bag containing the book she's read on her flight, a gift for Noah. She was led to the isolation room, a cold space of glass and steel, its walls mirroring the lounge luxury. The door closed behind her, with Victor Hayes standing watch, his badge representing her confinement. The passengers' murmurs followed her. "There lies a suffocating tide. She's a con artist." Claire's hazel eyes remained steady, her composure a quiet blaze. The audience's rage peaked, their hearts breaking for Claire, their fury a fire ready to consume the terminal's sanctity. The passengers' cruelty peaked as they spread vicious rumors, their voices a venomous storm echoing through the lounge. A hedge fund manager in a $9,000 Loro Piana suit leaned forward, his voice loud and cutting. He suggested she was a fraud, possibly having secured her place in the lounge through bribery, his friends agreeing, their cufflinks gleaming. Her marriage was also fabricated, simply a narrative to deceive Sutton. Another declared, raising his voice, she's a con artist. Noah has been tricked. Derisive laughter erupted, each statement a painful blow to Claire. Employees shared falsehoods, their accusations multiplying rapidly. She's after his wealth. Claire touched her backpack, maintaining a calm expression, though the group's malicious gossip felt overwhelming. The audience's anger surged, their feelings aligned with Claire, their outrage a powerful force seeking to expose the falsehoods of those in power. The sound of a jet engine broke the lounge's quiet atmosphere as a black Gulfstream G800 landed on the private runway, one of fewer than 20 such runways globally. The aircraft's polished exterior shone, its engines creating a loud noise that stopped the surrounding conversation. A VIP golf cart quickly moved towards the isolation zone, its tires squealing on the tarmac. Noah Sutton disembarked, his white shirt rolled up, his dark sunglasses glinting, projecting an aura of intensity. At 35, having grown up in Seattle, he had transformed Sutton Aerospace into a global empire, incorporating Rosebridge Jet Terminal through a corporate restructuring. He took off his sunglasses, revealing gray eyes as sharp as steel, and proceeded into the isolation room. Why is my wife being held here? His voice held no volume, yet it resonated with force. A wave of emotion rippled through the onlookers, their frustration giving way to expectation. Noah's revelation a beacon in the tension. Victor Hayes faltered, his official identification providing no protection. I wasn't aware she... Noah interrupted, his expression unwavering. She has nothing to demonstrate. I am her confirmation of travel. The atmosphere became still, Vanessa Klein's Versace dress appearing deflated, her crimson lipstick a sharp contrast against her complexion. Noah opened the exit, approached Claire, and clasped her hand. Are you weary? He inquired, his voice gentle yet resolute. The aircraft was prepared. Let's proceed. Claire smiled, her hazel eyes radiating warmth, her hoodie a subtle adornment. The travelers' cufflinks appeared less brilliant, their expressions strained with surprise. The crowd's sense of accomplishment grew, their hearts pounding as Noah's words altered the lounge's influence. Noah addressed the airport manager, his voice composed but firm. I intended to maintain my stake in Rosebridge for an additional 2 years, he stated, but today I have revised that decision. He hesitated, his gray eyes surveying the lounge. Detaining anyone for not wearing a suit in a gathering of those who believe themselves divine seemed inappropriate. Vanessa Klein recoiled, her Chanel perfume a sharp contrast to the situation. Noah's expression turned intense. I'm not merely the largest investor in this airport, I possess 70% ownership of Rosebridge Jet Terminal. A chill permeated the lounge. The receptionist almost dropped her iPad, and the head of security paled. The audience erupted, their anger shifting to astonishment as Noah's actions began to dismantle the deception that had restricted Claire. The repercussions were swift, a judgment conveyed without a sound. Noah addressed Victor Hayes, his voice sharp and decisive. You held the one I travel with, he stated, your time here is over, 5 minutes remaining. Victor's uniform seemed to shrink, his professional life collapsing. Noah then confronted Vanessa Klein, his gaze unwavering. Your department's screening procedures? Discontinued. Access is permanently denied to all Sutton Group locations. Vanessa's Versace dress offered no protection. Her standing served as a warning. Noah addressed Clara Holt, the receptionist. Your keycards have been disabled. Please clear your workspace. Clara appeared stunned, her role as gatekeeper now exposed. The onlooker's sense of disappointment shifted to jubilation, Claire's success affirmed by her husband's considerable influence. The isolation room felt dominated by Noah Sutton, his voice sharp and decisive, silencing the space enclosed by glass walls. You dared to detain Claire Sutton, the only soul worthy of this terminal, he declared, his gray eyes radiating a controlled fury. The validity of your badges, your protocols were irrelevant in the face of her truth. He presented a sleek tablet displaying a series of canceled agreements. Victor Hayes' security contracts, Vanessa Klein's management deals, and the staff's lounge privileges, all rescinded by Sutton Aerospace's board. Your names are removed from global aviation, he announced, his eyes focused on Victor. You have lost more than jobs, you have lost your futures. The audience reacted with shocked gasps, their empires collapsing under his direction. Claire stood beside him, her gray hoodie glowing, her triumph confirmed by Noah's consistent strength. The audience cheered, their spirits lifted as his worldwide justice defeated the elite's pride. Noah's gaze turned to the woman who had spoken, her daughter standing close behind. I heard you refer to her as a maid, he said, his voice slightly firm. I'll demonstrate the power even a so-called maid can possess, sufficient to result in your permanent membership cancellation. He retrieved his phone, activated it with a single button, and issued the command. The memberships of all individuals in Lounge 1A from the previous 2 hours were to be terminated. No justification was required. The socialite's platinum card became invalid, her standing negated. The tech mogul, who had previously ridiculed Claire's backpack, was led away, his agreements rescinded. Those passengers who had laughed concealed their Rolexes, their power diminished. The observers felt their hearts pound, their anger evolving into pride, Claire's victory shining brightly and humbling the lounge's prominent members. The downfall of the elite was a spectacle, their arrogance shattered under Noah's command. Vanessa Klein stumbled back, her Versace dress a mockery, her reputation a cautionary tale among the staff. Victor Hayes' badge was confiscated, his decades of service null, his escorts pushing him toward the service exit. Clara Holt's gatekeeping empire plummeted, her scorn a public wound, her belongings scattered. The hedge fund manager's deals collapsed, his slander exposed his lies. Those who'd flicked pens concealed their cufflinks, their memberships revoked. The staff who'd sneered were dismissed, their careers terminated. The socialite who'd whispered faced ostracism, her reputation diminished. Claire stood tall, her sneakers a subtle symbol of triumph, her hazel eyes unwavering. The audience's hearts resonated with emotion, their anger shifting to admiration. Claire's victory and Noah's anger shook the world's wealthiest in the terminal's esteemed halls. The terminal's hierarchy collapsed under Noah's direction. A thorough review revealed its deep-seated flaws. He addressed the airport's operations chief, his tone sharp and direct amidst the lounge's lavish surroundings. Your screening system is unacceptable, he stated, his gray eyes unwavering. Every procedure that caused distress to my wife is nullified, effective immediately. He activated his phone, and a wave of alerts flooded the staff's devices. Contracts terminated, permissions removed, entire departments dissolved. The socialite's daughter wept, her mother's membership a relic of a fallen empire. The tech mogul's jet remained on the tarmac, his influence non-existent. The receptionist who had laughed was escorted out, her iPad now inactive. Claire stood beside Noah, her backpack a silent declaration of her truth, her victory a bright spot in the terminal's fading light. The audience's hearts lifted, their anger shifting to triumph. Noah's fury a powerful force that washed away Rosebridge's arrogance. The details of Claire's history remained unknown, whether to the staff, Vanessa, or the passengers. When she was 20, she had rebuilt aircraft engines while studying late into the night, using her earnings to pay for textbooks. At 25, she encountered Noah at an aerospace expo, her understated intelligence captivating him amidst a crowd of showy personalities. Their marriage, a private ceremony on a Maine cliff, was founded on love, not financial resources. Vanessa's perfume, the staff's keycards, the passengers' suits, held no comparison to the resilience embodied by the backpack Claire carried. She now stood within the terminal, her rubber band a reminder of her integrity, her silence a consuming fire that exposed their deceit. Claire entered the Gulf Stream, still wearing her hoodie, holding Noah's hand. Her reflection appeared on the terminal's glass wall, portraying a composed woman passing 2 rows of people with lowered heads. The aircraft moved ahead, its engines creating a visible display of strength, leaving the lounge hushed. The chandeliers decreased in brightness, the marble floors no longer echoing with dominance. Noah turned to Claire, his gray eyes filled with concern. "Are you all right?" She responded with a nod, her hazel eyes following the curve of his smile. As the jet ascended, the autumn light diminished, revealing a line of the world's wealthiest individuals seeking her approval, their gestures a quiet acknowledgement of their previous treatment of her. She had experienced deep shame even being held. Within the exclusive VIP terminal of Rosebridge Airport, she appeared unassuming in an old hoodie and worn sneakers. Her appearance stood in stark contrast to the surroundings, a waiting lounge filled with Italian suits and platinum-tier memberships. The revelation arrived with undeniable force, and it couldn't be ignored. Everyone involved understood a crucial lesson. True authority isn't defined by appearance. It's established by presence, and the impact will be immediate. If you enjoyed this narrative, please like, share, and subscribe for similar stories. We'd love to hear from you. If you were Claire, what actions would you take?